all of the major subjects.
Now I would like to welcome Alka ma'am. Ma'am is here with us and she is an author, editor having experience of more than 31 years. So ma'am, the platform is all yours now. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Vaishali, for introducing. And of course, today, once again, I think we have enough reasons to celebrate because welcoming all my friends here, I'm sure they must be heaving a sigh of relief with the question paper that had come. Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Hello, everybody.
Hello, ma'am. Good evening.
Hello. Good evening. Good evening, everybody. All happy, isn't it? All English teachers feeling very, very happy with the
Yes,
responses that have come.
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am. Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
No, I think today let us reverse the chair and you speak up something that the children had. I'm sure you must have spoken to these children after they have finished both the papers. Some responses that I can have. Shisai, can I have it from you? Jolly Ghosh, can I have some responses or should we go ahead with the answers that were expected? Okay, all right. So here I have the question paper in my hand. The entire thing, the rubrics are exactly the same. They had to spend 1.5 hours, 40-minute paper it was. And the paper also tells them that they should not be allowed to write in the 10 minutes, which obviously they have abided by. We have sections here. So let's straightway go ahead with section A. Section A, we have to choose the correct answer. Can we all share that? Everybody, please let us come live and let's talk. What did Abu Ben Adam see in his bedroom when he awoke one night? What was the answer that came about? May I know?
Option D.
Option D, an angel writing in a book of gold.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. That was a clear answer. An angel was writing in a book. I don't think any child has made the mistake of writing a fairy or anything else. It is very clearly written and it's a short poem. Many of them have learned it also by heart. Moving on to question number 2. Which of the following lines? I think that was a very obvious answer. I think all our children must have done the right answer. Which of the following lines from the poem 9 gold medals tells us that the poem describes an international event?
Option A.
Option A.
Obvious. The athletes had come from so many countries. Although we insist that the children should read all the options, but option A was an obvious answer, yes. In the poem that Margaret wrote, the name of the story is also written, All Summer in a Day. She compares the sun to a
Flower. Option C, flower.
Option C, flower.
But I'm sure some of our kids have made mistakes. This is what I gathered. Some of them missed out. I don't know, you'll have to share. Thank you. Some of them missed out, that the poem that she wrote. And, they went to write few of them. They wrote Penny because possibly they did not read the question properly. So some kids were a little disappointed in the poem that Margaret wrote, isn't it? So they did not pay attention to that aspect and just went in to write. So some of my kids, I hope yours haven't done, but some of my kids have made this mistake. So next time, if at all such questions come, they have to be very careful. They must read the question very carefully, very thoroughly, and one. Who said the whom? Who says words and to whom?
One of the boys to Margot.
Yes. Over here, there was no confusion, no?
No.
Yes. No, kids did not have any confusion. It was very obvious. One of the boys told this to Margaret, of course. Option D is here. Jesse Owen said that Hitler had kept him, and obviously the option is also written here, under wraps. The answer once again is very, very obvious, no?
Option C.
Option C, a careful concealed secret.
Yes. I hope the responses were very positive and very happy, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Very good. That's so encouraging. Which Olympic game event was Jesse Owens confident of winning?
D, the running broad jump.
Yes. Yes, that broad jump. Remember when we were discussing, your kids also might have discussed this issue. Ma'am, what is broad jump and long jump? So since I personally remember, I had spent a good deal of time on this, so it was easy for them to decipher the answer. Yes, that was a very, was there any possibility of they having made mistake?
No, ma'am.
Sure. Great. So it all shows that they have read the lesson very carefully. And the Duke refers to Shylock as a stony adversary in the opening lines of Act 4, The Merchant of Venice. What does the phrase stony adversary mean?
Option B, a hard-hearted enemy.
Correct, correct. All options are there, but hard-hearted enemy is definitely the answer. My deeds upon my head, I crave the law, the penalty, and forfeit of my bond. This answer again is very, very obvious.
Shylock to Portia, option B.
Yes, yes. I'm sure they must be very happy. Why does the quarrel break out between Nerissa and Roshana in the final act, The Merchant of Venice?
Option A.
Option A.
Simple. Roshana admits that he had given away the ring which Narissa had given to him. And the last one, obviously. How does Lorenzo recognize Portia even before he sees her when the two young women return?
By the sound of her
By the
voice.
sound of a voice, option B.
Even Portia makes a reference that he recognizes my voice just as this.
Cuckoo, just like a cuckoo.
Yes, yes. So that line, if the children are reminded of, they would definitely know. Moving on to the writing section, let's turn, if you have the question paper, let's turn over. Have you all got a question paper?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you given? I returned so late, you know, having wound up with the ISC and all that. Okay, read the extract given below and answer the questions that follow. This was a fairly easy one with most of the answers in the text itself. Here we need to discuss, and let's see what our kids have written. You tell me and I shall tell you what my kids have written. Who was Bassanio's honorable wife? 1 mark.
Portia.
Portia.
1 mark, very clearly. Portia is the key word. So very clearly, why were the two men unaware that she was present in the room with them?
Because she had disguised herself.
Number 1.
She had disguised herself as Balthazar.
Very good. She had disguised herself as a lawyer. She had disguised herself as a doctor of law, as Balthazar. Disguised herself, dressed herself. Any of these words will go. So 1 mark plus 1 mark, that makes it very obvious. A 2 mark, and children are most likely to get 2 out of 2 here. Disguised, dressed, as Balthazar, if you make it even more specific, as a lawyer, good enough. What did Antonio urge Bassanio to tell his wife? 2 marks. What did Antonio tell Bassanio? Isn't the answer right here in the text?
Yes, to tell her how Antonio met his end.
Tell her the process of Antonio's end, number 1.
How much Antonio loved him.
Number 2.
Speak fair of him after his death.
Number 3.
And when the story of their friendship is told, be the judge to know whether Bassanio really had a friend who deeply loved him.
Very good. So half plus half plus half plus half. They will be expected to write 4 points and they get 2 out of it. 4 divided by 2. So that's how the marking would be done. And so all the 4 points will be expected. All 4 points, 2 out of 2. Any 1 point missing, they lose half a mark. Moving on to what debt was Antonio referring to in the extract? It's a 3-mark question. They have to elucidate the whole thing. What debt was Antonio referring to in the above extract? 3,000?
3,000 ducats which he had taken from Shylock and bound himself, signing the fatal bond that if he's unable to pay the money.
That is important. Signing the fatal bond, signing the bond has to be the key word. Yes.
Signing the fatal bond that if he's unable to repay the money within 3 months,
correct,
then he can, Shylock can take a pound of his flesh from any part of the body that he wishes to. So the debt here he's referring to giving his pound of flesh to Shylock for non-payment of or unfulfillment of the.
Yes, maybe a mention of the losing of the ships could also find a place in the answer. He was unable to pay this debt because of he having lost his ships and was not in a position to pay back the debt. So what debt? Because they have to elaborate the whole thing. A 3-mark question should be elaborated in a minimum of, 30 to 40 to 50 to 50 words, 60 words still. So yes, the amount, the forfeiture, the flesh, and the inability to pay. So that awards the children with 3 marks. What does Bassanio say in response to these words of Antonio's? Over here, the textual reading was very important. Shall we do? What does Bassanio? Let us see where exactly our children would be fetching marks. Number 1, he says, would you say or shall I say? What does Bassanio say in response to these words of Antonio's? Number 1, that life itself, love, my wife, everything, he does not esteem it more than him. Number 1. He can stake the world. Number 2. Can we point number 3? Can we have point number 3? Can we have the third point? Number 1, his life. Number 2, his wife, all his love, wife whom he loves, and he esteems the life of his friend above it all. So the 3 points, if children write, they are getting it. Any further suggestion that you would like to make, which you think I've missed out?
No, ma'am.
So friends, this is a question that they would get from the text, reading of the text. It's not written here. So their reading of the text was very important over here, that he had said over here that it is his life, his wife, and he esteems them all, but above it all, he places the life of his own friend. And that was his response. Of course, it was a response which emerged out of his overwhelming emotions, where he could see his friend. So obviously the children were expected to explain the whole thing, keeping these keywords in mind. I hope they have put in these words. What was the response of the children? Did you care to find out? Hello, friends.
They didn't make a mention of this question that they found it difficult. So they didn't say that it was difficult. So might as well, they must have written the right answer probably.
Oh, let's be hopeful. And I hope they have written all 3 points in order to get it. All the very best to them. We move on to the next question, and that is, how sweet the moonlight sleeps upon this bank. Obviously, who are these words being addressed to?
Ma'am, there's one more question, sub-question to the second one.
Mm-hmm.
What do their words tell us of the nature of the relationship between the two?
Oh, yes. Yes. We just missed that out. So this is the second part of the question.
Yes.
So 2 adjectives would be good enough to fetch marks. Thank you for drawing my attention. We just missed out. So 1 plus 2. So speak 2 things, 2 adjectives that we could use for the relationship. You suggest? Devotion, sincerity, die-hard love.
Committed.
Absolute faith, yes.
Committed.
Committed, absolutely committed, unconditional. Any of these 2 adjectives would be good enough to suffice the answer. Any of these 2 adjectives, coupled with proper explanation, would be good enough to award the child with the 3 marks. So 1 plus 2, the child gets 3. Read the extract given below and answer. Shall we move?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Let me have responses from others also, so that we can enjoy and we can all benefit out of your responses. How sweet the moonlight. Yeah, very good. Very nice. How sweet the moonlight sleeps upon this bank. Here will I sit and let the sounds of music. Act 5, all of us know that. We've done it so many times with them. To whom are these words addressed?
Jessica.
Jessica, yes. 1 mark, very clear. What message
Yes.
has just been delivered to Lorenzo? That Portia and Erisa would soon be there.
Arrival.
So the keyword
Oh,
Portia and
ma'am.
Erisa.
Ma'am,
Arrival.
out here the arrival of Bassanio. Lancelot comes before and talks about the arrival of Bassanio.
This time over here, to whom are these words addressed? This is to just, how sweet the moonlight sleeps upon the bank. Here we like, this is arrival of Bassanio. But these kids have written arrival of Portia, Nerissa, and later on they mention in the second paragraph, they mention that it is Bassanio and Roshana. They've written Nerissa and Jessica, Nerissa and Portia. But what message has just been delivered as far as the message is concerned over here? So if they've written Portia and Nerissa, they wouldn't be awarded marks, but they wouldn't be deducted also. And in the latter part, if they've written Bassanio, they are awarded. If they have not written Bassanio, they are less likely to get a mark.
Yes.
But if they've written Portia and Nerissa, good enough.
But the ma'am, sorry to interrupt, but here the real correct answer would be the arrival of Bassanio, right?
Yes.
With his horn full of hopes.
Yes.
And
yes.
Okay.
For 1 mark, it would be Bassanio, along with, if it is Bresciano, well, it's good enough. But it is Bassanio. Even if they've written Antonio, doesn't matter. But Bassanio is the key word. But some of them have written, or some of them have written Portia and Nerissa also.
Oh, okay.
But remember, this is one nice thing about ICSE, we don't make negative marking.
Yes, ma'am.
So even if they have written all these things, but if Bassanio is there somewhere in the answer, the tick will go and so will the mark. Where is the scene set? Now over here again, they have to be very precise to fetch full 2 marks. Where is this scene set?
An avenue to Portia's house in Belmont.
Avenue to Portia's house. If they've written Portia's house, they're getting half a mark. Threshold, avenue, outside will be taken care of for another half a mark, because it could have happened inside the house also.
Yes.
Just like the Catholic scene and all that. So just writing Portia's marks will possibly, as far as my correction experience goes, they will be awarded half a mark for that. Although truly speaking, half a mark provision we don't have.
Yes.
So we have it here. Where is the scene set? Portia's house is the keyword. Avenue, threshold, outside is good enough an answer to supplement. Number 1. Number 2, why are Lorenzo and his companion at this place? Yes, this was the question where they were supposed to know the text. Why are? What are the different answers that have come? I'll tell you what my children have written. Or would I have it from you first? Hello.
I haven't discussed it with my children, ma'am, but
Okay.
yeah, but I feel it's simply that they are expressing their love for each other, getting a chance. And Lorenzo had asked Jessica to join him in the garden to enjoy the moonlight, and they are kind of just having a love chat between them.
Yes, actually, the Shakespeare has given this entire scene a romantic touch, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
So, but I'll tell you what all possible answers had also come along with these points, that he's ushering her in a world of romance, number 1. But some of them have also written that they had eloped from Venice and had come to this place. Some of my kids have also written that they had eloped from Venice and had come to this place to avoid Shylock's fury. This was one of a few common answers. Also, apart from the fact that Lorenzo, in the absence of Portia and Nerissa, Lorenzo is spending.
In charge of the house.
Yes?
Was in charge of the house.
He had been given, of course, he was looking after the word husbandry or in charge. Anything else that they have written? So that I can match it and see if at all it awards them marks. What about this? Have your kids written this one? They had eloped from Venice to avoid or escape from Shylock's fury. Has anybody written? Do you think your kids would have written?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'll take it that this was a possible point also which they have written, because it's written, why are Lorenzo and his companion at this place? So apart from the romantic aspect, moonlit night, having a romantic conversation, this point was also dealt with by some of my students. So I thought it would be better if I share. So if your children have also written, it shouldn't be surprising. We are moving on to the next question. How does Zorenzo describe the powerful effect of music on wild animals to his companions? It's all Act 5.
Yes.
It's all Act 5.
It's a direct
How does
answer.
Lorenzo describe? Yeah. I think it's there in the text, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you mention or should I mention first?
Ma'am, it's simply that when the trumpet blows, even the wild colts, they stand still. It's regarding all that, right? Yes.
Keywords have to be, keywords have to be borne in mind, like their savage gaze turns to a modest gaze. So that word savage was there, modest gaze was there, stand in mutual attention, that was there.
Wild, wanton.
Yes, wild and wanton.
Wild and wanton, yes.
Hot condition. These keywords, if they have incorporated in their answer, that will act. That will give them a benefit.
Okay.
Mutual attention, savage gaze, wild and wanton, then hot condition of their blood. So I suppose 3 of these points will fetch them marks. They will be looking for the keywords in the entire. When the answer sheet comes, all of you know that the keywords are to be taken care of. Portia, but I'm sure they have written it all. Portia and Erisa, yes, in their own way, but they must have written these points. Portia, because we have actually worked with them so hard. Portia and Erisa arrive on the scene shortly after this. Now you know why these children made this additional point of writing this answer, that what information did they give? Because obviously this question must have given them this idea that what information. So I believe that this could have been a reason why my children have also written that they were told about. Portia and Narissa arrive on the scene shortly after this. What reason does Portia give for their absence from home? What do you think your children have written?
What she was in the she was praying for her husband's health in the monastery.
Right. So the word monastery, well-being, health, Basanio, husband, that should be the key word for the first answer, right?
Yes.
Yes. And then moving on to the next one, what does she instruct Narissa to do immediately after their arrival?
I think it's that she tells her to inform all the servants not to utter a word to Lorenzo.
Take no note.
Not to tell them about her whereabouts.
That phrase is there, take no note of their absence, isn't it?
Yes.
So about their whereabouts, that they had been out from the home, nobody should speak, something of that, yes. So I think this step would have been fairly easy for our children to attempt, right?
Yes.
That's how I believe, yes. Shall we move on to the short story section?
Yes, ma'am.
So let's go. Your responses are so overwhelming. I'm absolutely thrilled. Read the extract from this story that we have done. This was the last story, All Summer in a Day. The girl standing in the open held out her hand. Oh, look, look, she said, trembling. I'm sure many must have read this story in the last moment yesterday. And they must have benefited out of it, because the question says, how old were they? So they couldn't have answered this question without having read the text over and over again. You think they might have written correctly?
Yes.
Yes.
9 years.
Yes.
They did not confuse the 7 and the 9, no?
No.
Good. I like this conviction. How old were they? That is done. That's very easy. 1 mark. And what had they been doing until the girl called their attention to the raindrop?
Enjoying the bliss of the sun.
Correct. Enjoying, relishing
the yes. And some of them have written regarding the feeling the sun as warm iron on their cheeks. That they have written.
All positive things, positive adjectives.
Yes.
That they enjoy during the sun. All positive, relishing, having fun, all those things. That was for 2 marks. Why does the girl begin to cry when she looks at the raindrop? This was a reflective question. Why does the girl begin to cry when she looks at the raindrop? We had explained it to them when we were teaching them. What do you think your children would have written? I'll tell you what my children have written.
Because she
mind sharing?
thought that now that it would start raining, they would not, because now that it had started raining, they would not be able to witness the sun for 7 more years, and they would have to wait for it for 7 long years to enjoy the warmth of the sun and feel the sun on their body.
Very good. So very similar to the one that I've written. Most of these kids settle for the answer that the joy was very short-lived. Right? So I
Yes.
think this we can incorporate. The joy was short-lived. And as you said, the second keyword will be 7 years, isn't it? So for the next 7 years, they wouldn't be able to enjoy it anymore. So they were, whatever, whether she grieved, she was overwhelmed with emotion, she felt the loss of this pleasure, whatever. But these 2 words were important. That the joy of the sun, she wouldn't be able to enjoy. And second is 7 years. That 7 years would be very important. I'm sure ICSE will make it an important point to use for the second mark. Describe the dramatic change. Over here, once again, reading of the text must have been very, very vital. Describe the dramatic change in the weather immediately after the raindrop fell. The text was here. Cold drops fell on the cheek.
Yes.
Yes?
It's all about the boom of thunder that
Yes.
started there.
But it's written to
Yes.
describe the dramatic. Some of my children have written cold drops fell on the cheeks, mouth, noses. But the question says describe the dramatic change in the weather.
Yes.
So I think they should have written lightning, fading of the sun,
Yes.
behind the stir of mist. This was
The sky
important.
darkened. The sky darkened
Yes,
into midnight.
sky darkened, lightning struck, a wind blew cold around them. So 3 points. Pool of thunder. So cold drops falling on the cheeks wouldn't be a point, as far as I think. That wouldn't be considered as a point. But these 3 would definitely be. Lightning, fading of the sun behind the stir of mist, darkening of the sky, 3, wind blowing, cold around them, and a pool of thunder. There are 5, 6 points. So a minimum of 3 would be expected. You think they have done justice to the answer?
I think my kids wouldn't have attempted this question.
Okay, for the fear of missing out the adjectives.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, good enough. If they've been so wise, good for them. But can we proceed with the next question?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Read the extract from My Greatest Olympic Prize. Suddenly all the
Ma'am, there's
tension.
one more question in the previous one. What
That's
feeling
fine.
do
Question
the-
4.
Oh, we missed out on that, yes. What had they done earlier that made them feel this? Sorry, we missed out the last question. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. What feeling do they, they have very subtly written the they within inverted commas, expecting the children to write who they refers to. So when the word they is written, they are obviously expected to write who they refers to. So what were their
Yes.
feelings? What feelings do they experience at the end of the story? What are the adjectives? What are the nouns that you think they might have used?
Feel of guilt.
Guilt, yes, it was common. This answer,
Remorse.
this word was common.
Remorse.
Remorse, regret,
Regret.
They were ashamed of themselves.
ashamed of themselves. Yes, yes. I think these words were common with all the children. And what had they done? That also answer is a very, very obvious answer.
Yes.
Some of them might have, interchanged the answer. They might have written the second part in the first and first, but that doesn't really matter. Eventually, the answers are important. So as they had locked, because some of them did say that they had written, as they had locked Margaret in the closet, and suddenly they realized this. So there was a sudden feeling of guilt, shame. What are the other adjectives you used?
Remorse.
Regret, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Regret.
3 marks, 1 plus 2. 1 for what they had done, and 2 for the feelings. So if they've written guilt and shame, they get it. If they've written remorse and regret, they get it. Ashamed of themselves, 1 mark, and guilty, were guilt-ridden, another mark. So 2 plus 1 that's how the marking should be done. Now shall we move?
Yes, ma'am.
Suddenly all the tension seemed to ebb. Suddenly all the tension seemed to ebb out of my body as the truth of what he said hit me confidently. I drew a line, a full foot in back of the board and proceeded to jump from there. I qualified with almost a foot to spare. What was the truth?
It doesn't matter that, because it's not the final Olympics. I mean, here Laslong had very clearly told Jesse Owens that it is not on the Olympics that you're concentrating. You're concentrating on the trials, and the main event is tomorrow. So,
so he gave
I think
him
I'm
one
answering
suggestion.
this. Sorry,
For
I'm
the second
answering
part
the
of
second question.
For the
Sorry.
second part of the answer,
Yeah.
that suggestion would be taken into account.
Yes. So,
Yes.
no, it starts the suggestion. I just wanted to clear this suggestion out here. It needs to be both, right? The drawing of the line, as well as that it is
Yes.
not that you have to concentrate only on on today's events, rather
Yes.
on tomorrow's events, right?
Yes.
Both these suggestions have to come in. And ma'am,
Yes.
if at all the children have not written towards the end that finally Jesse Owens succeeded or won the Olympics,
That's
and
not expected.
created,
That's not
not
expected.
expected, right?
No.
Yeah.
They have to be
Okay.
absolutely precise with the answer. What was the
Mhm.
truth? The first thing was what exactly the competition, what was the purpose behind he being there? And secondly, about he drawing a line a few inches back of the board that would give him an edge.
Okay.
1 plus 1. How he did and what was the result, that isn't important. In this question, it is not important at all.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, because it is basically an objective kind of question. So the children are not
Yes.
expected to write. Moving on to the next one. Earlier in the narrative, Owens admits to feeling angry. What was the reason?
Hitler's Aryan supremacy theory, ideologies.
Ideologies. That he
because,
had spread this myth
because
that one ethnic group was superior to the
Superior to the others. Yes.
other. Yeah. Anything related to Hitler's atrocious way and the
or
message
probably Hitler keeping Laslong under wraps so that he could compete against Jesse Owens, and so he was startled to seeing him.
But I think this should not be considered as a reason for him to be angry.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry for that, but this should not be considered as a reason for him, because he's going by the story we read, Jesse Owens is not a kind of a person who will be angry that he knew that he had kept him under wraps, but did that make him angry? No, the others, like I did not approve of this answer. What about the others?
I too don't. I mean, it's basically because of Hitler's ways, his superiority theory,
Master
race. Yes.
If they've written, they are not losing marks, but that they will not be awarded either. Putting long under wraps will not be marks which will be awarded. If they've written, it doesn't matter, but I don't think that will be. So I'm a little sorry for
because
that.
written after that, Hitler keeping him under wraps. Then in the next paragraph, it's written that an angry athlete is the one who makes mistakes, and I was no exception, and I committed mistakes also. So that was one of Hitler's ways to distract Jesse Owens from achieving his goal.
You think we should incorporate this point as an answer? Let's keep our fingers crossed and see if this comes as a point in the that we get. Shall we?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's see if they have put it, and so let's keep our fingers crossed. If this point should be accepted, because ma'am is justifying that soon after it's written that anger is absolutely detrimental to an athlete's growth. So for the time being, shall we move?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. How did the two athletes spend their time together that night? It's a 3-mark question, so they will have to write 3 things. I'll tell you what were the common points that my kids wrote. They written that he went out of his way to go to his room
in the Olympic Village to thank him because he knew that if it hadn't been for him, he wouldn't have qualified. And they spent over 2 hours talking about track and field, world situation, and a dozen other things.
Yes, to discuss track and field, world situation, and a dozen of other matters and all that. And after that, if the children have, have zipped up the answer with the feeling of warmth, affection, love, togetherness, spirit of...
There's a strong friendship had been formed between both of them.
Sportsman spirit and all that. That should be obviously a good way to finish. Sorry. Okay, let's move. How did the two athletes spend their night? What action of Laszlo? Obviously. What action of Laszlo at the finals proved that he was a true sportsman? At the finals, remember.
Because even if he lost, when Jesse Owens won, he went and congratulated him. Even though Hitler was glaring at him, he still congratulated him, and it was a firm handshake. It was not a fake one, and which showed that he had true sportsmanship. And
he was, it was his approach that actually pushed Jesse Owens to his peak performance. Yeah, that I took it as a point also. It was his approach, it was Long's approach towards Jesse, towards Owens, that pushed him to that, I harped on that phrase, peak performance.
But if the question says what action, so probably his action was that he, congratulated him.
Yeah, he came forward.
Yeah, but if at all they have written, because I don't know, but as far as I think, they should also be considered as an action. That even though it was not very explicit, but in a subtle way, he did support him to attain his best and attain. But nevertheless, 3 points should be. And the second part, what made his behavior remarkable? What made his behavior remarkable?
Is it Hitler glaring?
No, even after losing the gold medal.
Yes.
Even after losing the gold medal, he came forward and congratulated. That made him remarkable.
Remarkable and more.
And he sent a fake handshake. It was a firm handshake.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a message to the world, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was a message to the world, very loud and very clear, that it was coexistence and cooperation that will actually work rather than Hitler's
winning is not important, but rather taking part is important.
True sportsman spirit is also can be considered.
So winning is not important. Participation is important. Coexistence is important. Cooperation is important. And true sportsman spirit is important. Let's see what all our children have written. I'm sure they must have fished out at least some extra adjectives in order to fetch marks for themselves. It's 3 marks. So what action? Of course, they have written. If they've written 2 actions, possibly only 1 action will be taken into account for the mark. And what message? The last question is more a kind of a message. What made his behavior remarkable? That he, despite the fact that he had lost,
he came forward.
Like a true sportsman, he rose to the occasion and showed to the world what true sportsman was. So let's see how our children have put for this answer, but I'm sure the sum and substance of the answer would be good enough for them to fetch marks. The collection.
Hello, ma'am. Hello, ma'am.
Yes. Hello.
Actually, one of my students said that he just congratulated, Laszlo congratulated Jesse Owens in front of Hitler. He didn't mind that. So he was bold enough to do that act. So that is also remarkable. Can we take it as a remarkable one at this point?
Yes, that should be. That's why I said no, that when the key points will come from the board. So we will have all 3, and the examiner will look for 2 key points for the second answer, and we'll look for the 1 key point for the first answer. So of the 3-4 points that we will have, if our children have written 2 points, they will be awarded, which will include Hitler also, which will include handshake also.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So I'm very sure they will give us some optional key points also. out of which our children will be expected to mention minimum 2, for which we should be generous enough to award them.
Yeah, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, yes, thank you. We move on to the poetry section here. We'll have to do a little fast because we have an ISC webinar also waiting at 7. Here it is, but we will go comfortably. Abu Ben Adam, what does the poet mean by the word "may his tribe increase"? May his tribe increase?
May there be more good people like Abu Ben Adam.
Yes.
He was a religious person, a pious person who always did
Yes.
good deeds and acted
Yes.
righteously. So may there be more good people like Abu Ben Adam in this world.
Yes. These kind of people, generous, loving, humble, sincere, devoted, committed, all those adjectives will be good enough to fetch them marks. Mention any 2 words. Archaic words are expected over here.
What writest thou?
Thou,
Writest.
writest, thee,
Writest, makest, thou.
nay,
So one of the 2 they
Nay.
must have.
Yeah.
They must have.
and low.
Nay.
Yes.
And low can
They must
also
have
be
written 2,
considered.
I'm very sure.
And low, the last one.
Yes, the last line also. 3
And
different
low.
names, 3 different
Low.
name lists.
Ma'am,
mentioned.
low is used currently also. So
Yeah,
low will not
blessed.
go into that.
BLEST, blessed.
No, we use it only for
Yeah,
hymns and we use it only for parables. We don't use it for a regular modern English.
No,
We
no,
don't use
and
blessed
low,
for modern English.
and low.
That also we don't use it on a very regular basis. If somebody is wanting to highlight a particular a flavor of a language, only then. Otherwise, we don't really use it. I mean, I haven't come across it so very rampantly.
So it can be considered. No?
Let's see. Maybe our children might have written 3. The examiners will pick up 2 and put it. You think they might have done this smart work?
Some have, but some have not. So they were very anxious because one had written thee and low.
Let's hope
So
for
I
the
said,
best. Let's hope for the best. 3 different lists. They were very obvious. Those who love the Lord, those who
Love his fellow men.
yes, love their fellow men, and the last one was whom the love of Lord had blessed.
Lord has blessed.
Yes. What important lesson did? Yes. So 1, 2, 3. 1 mark, 1 mark, 1 mark. That was easy. What important lesson did Abu Ben Adam learn after his second encounter with the angel? Second encounter with the angel. That is the last one. This is almost a kind of a message of the story. That the best way is to serve him. The best way to serve Lord is to serve his men.
Human. Yeah.
Yes. Service to God, service to man. Service to man is service to God. If they've written anything of this sort, it should be good enough an answer. And what message does the poet convey to us through this? So I'm sure they must have elaborated it in their own way. You know, patience, perseverance, sincerity, devotion, commitment. You think they might have written all this?
yes, ma'am.
So let us be, and I'm sure they must have opted for this question also.
Yes, quite a lot of them. Yes.
Most of them, yes. And with the last one, 9 gold medals, how exactly did the race end? 2 mark?
Each one of the differently
awarded.
9 differently abled athletes being awarded a gold medal.
For
So
their
9.
wonderful display
There were 9
of
winners.
Yes, for the
exemplary display of sportsmanship.
Anything unprecedented, had never happened,
The
first
100
time
meter,
ever.
Rare.
yeah,
9
the
gold.
100 meter, the 100-meter race was turned to a mere walk towards the.
Yes. For the second mark, this will be expected. That a 100-meter race was turned to a mere walk. And then they were
So
not
all the
expected
9
why and all that.
hands
Because it is just
together.
2 marks. So 2 marks means maximum 20 words.
Yeah.
So they all joined
Who are
hands
they?
together.
We naturally refer to the athletes. How do we know what they had put in a great deal of effort to qualify? They had spent
Months and weeks of
Months.
training.
weeks and months.
To
That
win
will be
the,
the key
to
words.
win either the
They
gold,
had
silver, or bronze.
spent months and keywords. Yes.
Weeks and months, weeks and months.
Yes. And why were they holding hands and smiling? Because they had all done it together. Number 1. They had stumbled, they had staggered, but they had linked their arms. Despite the fact that one of their friends had stumbled on the way, but they were smiling because they had finally managed to breast the tape with all 9 winners. Let's see how our children have put in and what marks. They will get it. We have taught them well enough. What did the banner over them say? That is important.
Special Olympics.
Yeah, special
Special.
Olympic, 1 mark. And how does the poet consider these words at an appropriate description of this particular event? Once again, the message.
The gesture, yeah, their gesture of sensitivity, benevolence. We can add many adjectives.
Many adjectives: sensibility, sensitivity,
Sensitivity, self-sacrifice.
self-sacrifice, togetherness, brotherhood.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm very
Coexistence.
sorry to interrupt, ma'am. We have a webinar in another 10 minutes
Yes.
also. And
Yes,
that is
yes, we
also
are
yours
ending
only. So you
Yes.
will also need a 5-minute break. So I would like you to take care of it. Yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
can
Yes, ma'am.
cheer up with the cup of coffee, Vaishali.
That is I'm saying that you only will be needing, because you are the speaker of the next webinar as
Yes,
well. So you'll be
yes,
needing
yes.
a 5-minute break. I would like you to take a 5-minute break. Yes.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
thank
you,
you.
ma'am. Thank you,
Yes.
ma'am.
Yes,
Thank you,
thank
ma'am.
you so much. Thank you, friends.
Thank you.
God bless you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
I would like to thank all the participants as well. And thank you so much, ma'am, for the wonderful session.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
God bless
you.
you all. Thank you. Thank you so much.